New York Jets football is finally back. While the offseason program started on Monday, we finally got to hear from some of the newest additions on this New York Jets squad. Justin Fields spoke to the media. Brendan Stevens spoke to the media. And returning linebacker Jamie Sherwood also addressed the media in Florham Park, New Jersey. Today, we'll break down the biggest takeaways from those press conferences and more, all coming up right here, right now on NY Flight Jets Talk, joined by our guy Matt O'Leary here in his weekly spot on the program. Let's do this.
J-E-T-S, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today?
ESPN writer, Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer, and Jets legend, Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
What is going on, everyone? Hello and welcome back here to another edition of NY Flight Jets Talk. I appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel on your way into the building. It's completely free and it helps us grow significantly here on the show. Paid way to help us grow helps us just as much as the free way. You can get into our membership raffle. Every membership gifted or $2.99 super chat will get you a ticket into our raffle where the prizes we're giving away include a Don Maynard signed photo, Joe Klecko signed helmet, Joe Namath Super Bowl III replica ring, CJ Mosley signed jersey, a free item from our merch store, and a channel emoji, so make sure to get in on that. If you haven't already, the more tickets you have, the higher chance you have to win, but make sure you smash that like and hit subscribe. I appreciate all your support, as always, here on the show, but let's get right into it. Joining me right now here in his weekly spot on the show, fellow Jets content creator, the one, the only, Long Island's very own, Matt O'Leary, gracing us with his presence on the program. Matt, how you doing?
Connor, thanks so much for having me. As always, excited to talk some Jets football with you today.
1000%. I'm super happy you are able to be here. I appreciate you sparing some time for us. As always, so I kind of just want to hop into it, kind of, the biggest news for today. I know we were talking before, but, somewhat of a dead period it's been for this team recently. Obviously, we know where it stands. We're less than 3 weeks away from the draft. We still got the top 30 visits, stuff of that nature to get into, but really no major headlines. And, it was good to see some of the new free agent additions talking to reporters in Florham Park, New Jersey today. I'm going to kind of start with Justin Fields. He touched on the situation he had with the Steelers and why he was benched last season, kind of how that situation unfolded and the potential he has with this team. Did you take anything away significantly from Justin Fields' presser in Florham Park today?
There wasn't really a ton, and I wasn't expecting to hear much from him, but something that I did like, I believe it was Rich Cimini asked him about the comments that Aaron Glenn made with him being kind of let loose a little bit and being able to play the quarterback position. And it would have been so easy for him to take, the low road and just kind of go, yeah, I wasn't used properly and were my first 2 stops. Mm-hmm. But I kind of like that he was like, I was just, I played how they asked me to, and I'm a team first guy. And I think that's, what a leader is supposed to do. So I want to give him some credit for that one. Like you said, not a whole lot really stood out as major breaking news, but I thought he handled that one pretty well.
100%. Now, Brandon Stevens spoke to reporters today, one of the most polarizing additions, if not the most polarizing addition this team made this offseason. Just the fact that you're giving a cornerback $12 million a season on a multi-year deal, someone who's struggled throughout the entirety of his career. Obviously, some question marks are going to be raised there, but I think Aaron Glenn, and Darren Mushi came pretty prepared at the owners' meetings when it came to addressing why they signed Brandon Stevens. Aaron Glenn made it very, very clear he thinks he is going to be able to develop Stevens into a top cornerback in this league, which I really, really like. Could the contract have been, done in a better way? 1,000%. Would I have preferred it to be a 1-year, $8-9 million deal? 1,000%. However, this team seems pretty much all in on Brendan Stevens and the fact that they can kind of develop and groom him into being somewhat of a top cornerback in this league. The way he spoke to reporters today, talking about he came here for the defensive coaching staff and the ability to develop him into a solid player. Anything you want to take away there?
Yeah. I like in his answer, he kind of spoke about Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilks as big reasons for why he wanted to come here. And I think they have, or I hope at least, I think that and hope that they have a plan in place to get the most out of him. And really frustrating 2024 season for Brandon Stevens, where he was right there in coverage, but for whatever reason, was struggling to get his head around. And there were a lot of completions over the top of him or a lot of penalties because he wasn't turning around and finding the ball. But he has a lot of physical tools and I think athletic attributes that make him an intriguing prospect. Now, he's a little bit older, right? Like it's not like it was his first year in the league and he struggled. Like he's 27, but I do think if anyone is to get the most out of a corner, it would be a guy like Aaron Glenn who played the position at such a high level. And, hopefully, like I said, there's some sort of plan in place to get him back to what he was in 2023 previously with the Baltimore Ravens.
Matt, how do you think the Jets are going to utilize Stevens overall? Because right now, you look at this team and they got rid of Brendan Eccles. You have a bunch of unproven guys behind Sauce Gardner in this cornerback room. Obviously, DJ Reed walking in free agency. You're looking at guys like Quantez Stiggers and Jarek Bernard Converse in the CB room, obviously behind Eccles and Sauce, the two kind of lead guys. How do you expect the Jets to utilize Brandon Stevens throughout the season? You think he's going to be that guy who's going to play opposite Sauce Gardner? Do you feel comfortable kind of, obviously Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes kind of have that confidence, but would you feel comfortable kind of inserting him right away in what DJ Reed's role was, or do you want to have him earn it a little while?
I think because of the contract and just the state of the rest of the roster, he's going to be the guy who's starting outside of or across rather from Sauce Gardner. Maybe they try to give him safety help over the top at first. Like Sauce is someone who I think could be someone who plays more man coverage, and maybe you don't need to shade the safety his way. Same thing with Michael Carter in the slot. I think he's someone who, is a more than capable starter, and maybe he gets some one-on-one opportunities, which then leaves the roaming free safety to kind of travel and give some extra assistance to Brandon Stevens. So, that's maybe my thought process to get the most out of him, but, we'll have to see what Steve Wilkes and Aaron Glenn decide in order to make this unit work.
Let's move over to the draft, Matt. The top 30 visits, the local visits. The Jets are scheduled to have their first local visit with Penn State safety Jalen Reed. Just looking at these names, some of the bigger ones would be a guy like Ariante Ursery, someone like Kyle Williams, who's been a fast riser throughout this pre-draft process. Any strategy per se that has stuck out to you with the Jets scheduling these top 30 visits? You strike anyone, you look at them and you say, I think the Jets could really look their direction at some point and hear their name being called during the draft for Gangrene.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's something to it with these visits. You get an extra look at these prospects. I'm glad you brought up Ursery because that's a name that if the Jets don't take an offensive lineman in round 1, I think he would be a target for them potentially at pick number 42. Has a lot of starting experience. I think he's someone who, if you're trying to find guys on day 2 that you maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with playing early on, he would be one of those guys for me. So I always find it interesting to see okay, what kind of prospects are they looking at? And usually, not every time, but usually it's a pretty good indicator showing who they like in the draft.
100%. And I know you're a big Tyler Warren fan, Matt, too. And I like Tyler Warren. It's just no one I look at in this year's class. I don't know how you feel about these prospects. There's no one I look at who's like a complete prospect compared to last year, where even like Olu was such a great pick. Brock Bowers would have been such an awesome pick. Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, 2 great offensive linemen. Just every prospect I feel like I look at, except the Abdul Carters, the Travis Hunter of the world, there's always that but. Tyler Warren had a solid year, but it took him 4 years to really groom into being a competent tight end at the college level. I think a really beautiful scenario for this team, Matt, could be you get your playmaking tight end guy who could help kind of develop into a blocker for you with, his technique being refined a little bit, and Tyler Warren with the 7th overall pick. And then you look at pick number 42. You can look even a guy like Josh Connerly, who I believe the Jets met with and have a top 30 visit with. He's someone to look out for. Or Ariante Ursery, the guy we were just talking about. So in that scenario, you would pretty much get your playmaker, your tight end, your number 2 overall pass catcher in the first round in Tyler Warren. And then in the second round, you address the, I would say, second or third largest need on this team, which is getting, solidifying the right side of the offensive line and placing an entire brick wall in front of Justin Fields. Staying with the topic, though, of the offensive line overall, AVT kind of entering his contract year. Do you feel comfortable handing AVT a contract extension today, Matt?
See, I feel like today is kind of hard because he's coming off a year where it was the first time that he was healthy in 2 years. I kind of want to play it by ear again this year with Elijah Vera Tucker. I just don't know, assuming they're going to hand out a contract to Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner this offseason, which is something that I think they are going to do. I don't know if they continue to throw money at AVT and John Simpson too. Like, if AVT is healthy again and plays well at right guard, then yeah, let's try to figure out a way to get him in here to stay. I think it's wise to keep your offensive line together. But I want to see how this year plays out before I'm throwing him the money.
I wouldn't absolutely hate it, Matt, because this is someone who's shown he can play all four of the 5 spots on the offensive line. And I'm sure if you threw him at center, he could do an okay job. I remember what the Jets had to do. What was it, Matt? Week 8 of the 2023 season. I watched half of it at home, listened to the second half on the radio with like Xavier Newman coming in to play center, and he's never played center. Like that, he took 2 college snaps or something like that at the center position. So I'm sure even if you plugged AVT at center, he could do a fine job. But in all seriousness, this is someone, when he's on the field, he's a top player at his respective position. You can plug and play with him across the entirety of the offensive line. Am I clamoring right now to, oh my God, you better pay AVT? No. Would it be the worst thing in the world in my eyes? Certainly not. This is someone, I think Darren Mushi took a great approach to not only naming him a guard, because I think that's his best overall position, but let's keep in mind here, the guard average, like a solid guard is paid a lot less than a premier tackle. Let's keep that in mind here. So I think it's a smart move for the Jets to keep him at guard, not only in the sense you get his best play there, but also you can pay him more like a guard when he's extended, if he's extended. And then after that, boom, you have the flexibility to play him at tackle, and he's under contract as a guard. Do you kind of like that approach? Did that play into your mentality? Because I know you're someone else who really wanted him to play guard as well.
Yeah, I think his versatility is a strong suit, but for me, the reason why I'm so strong about, or feel so strongly about keeping him at guard, is because I just want them to find a line and like stick with it, and like that's their line for the full season, so to speak. And they have an opportunity to do that this year with bringing back essentially everyone from left tackle to right guard. They still need to find a right tackle. And yes, Elijah Vera Tucker has shown that he can play right tackle, but I don't like the idea of just keep bouncing around to position. Like, I'd rather him just kind of have his role, stay there, develop, get better, hopefully get paid, and just be a good starting guard, which is what he was last year. He was one of the 10 best guards in the NFL last year.
100%. And the interior of this line, Matt, was so strong last season. Pittman, obviously, at center, and then Simpson and AVT as your 2 guards. That is like a really, really solid, like they had so much success last season. Why would you want to change that up? And, now talking about giving freaking Josh Myers a chance, like Josh Myers was paid like a backup. He could be a really, really good backup for this team. He struggled as a starter. You got me?
Oh, you're back. You said he struggled as a starter, and then it got all frozen.
Yeah, I have no idea. Yeah, this is someone who struggled over the past 4 seasons in Green Bay. He was paid backup money to come on this team. I want him to be a backup and provide interior depth. I don't really want him to be a starter on this football team. You agree with me there, Matt?
100%. I think him being your first guy up, if there's an injury on the interior, is fine. He does have that starting experience, but penciling him in as a starter on day one, I don't think makes sense.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Matt O'Leary, Connor Long here with you on NY Flight Jets Talk. Any questions for us, throw them in the chat, pin comment. If you want to call in, Super Chats, membership's also a great way to contribute to the show. And our guy Jimmy Jets comes in with 5 gifted memberships. Jimmy, thank you so much for all of your support here on the channel. As always, if you hear your name called, thank Jimmy Jets for the memberships. ISURB4L, Friday Jones, Isabel from Kolkata, Kyle Clifton, YO Jet fan. You are all members. Thanks to our guy Jimmy Jets. Jimmy, that is 5 more raffle entries for you. Appreciate your support as always. Every $2.99 super chat, every gifted membership will get you a ticket into our membership raffle. And then Jimmy had a question here. Here it is. It says, would you take Campbell at 7 over tight end or wide receiver, Matt?
I would say no, because I think he's going to play guard at the next level.
Mm.
With his arm length. I know at his pro day he measured in better than what he did at the
Yeah,
combine.
which makes no sense, by the way.
It makes no sense, and I always have some doubts about the pro day numbers as opposed to the combine numbers. And I'm not saying like that he's not a good offensive lineman. I think if you're a team that could use either a tackle or guard, it makes sense because you can try him at tackle. If it doesn't work, you go, okay, let's play him at guard then. For the Jets, they really need a right tackle. And I'm not as convinced that he's a tackle at the next level. Maybe some other team feels differently, right? Like New England, that pick 4, I think, is in play, but they have needs across the starting line. So he could play tackle or guard for them. For the Jets, the reason why I think Membu makes more sense is because they specifically need a right tackle. And that's what, number one, he projects as, and number 2, what he played in college.
100%. And when it comes to the Patriots, if I just had to put myself in position of whether it's Elliott Wolf, Mike Vrabel, or even a Patriots fan, I would be the biggest proponent of why would you draft an offensive lineman in the first round? I think you pretty much help, like their offensive line is far from a top unit in the league, but you short it up to a degree you feel somewhat comfortable with. Why would you want to use a top, they pick it 4, why would you want to use the 4th overall pick on an offensive lineman when you helped address that need in free agency? Meanwhile, you still need a pass catcher. You still need a ton of help on defense. I think the smartest pick for the Patriots in this year's draft would be Travis Hunter, and I think he would fit more in as a wide receiver with that team more than a cornerback because you got to have Christian Gonzalez already manning that side of the defense. Sure. Here's the thing, though. You can both sides with Travis Hunter. It's if you're going to play both ways, it's easier to play full time on defense and then kind of part-time on offense. It's hard to go full-time on offense and then kind of switch on over and try to sneak in there on defense. It's kind of tough to do that. I think that's where the Patriots will and should go, though, with the number 4 overall pick. Campbell, you mentioned it, Matt. He's a guard. I'm not using a top 7 pick on a guard. At that point, I'd rather just take Ashton Genty. Like, I'm not using a top 7. Talk about, people complaining what's a premium position, what's not. I would take Shahad Campbell before I took Will Campbell in this year's draft. That's just me. If you're going to take an offensive lineman, have it be Membu. He's not my number 1 option, but that is the guy I would take. Overall, I just don't want an offensive lineman in the first round. Like, it's a deeper class. I want to get a legit playmaker in the first round, and I just don't think that's who Will Campbell is. So, pass for me on Will Campbell in the first round. Jack comes in, says, I think Ursary is a smart pick at 42. Get your pass catcher, whether that be Warren or another guy at 7, then get your tackle in the second. I mean, Matt, we saw the draft odds came out for ESPN's simulator or predictor. I don't know if you saw that. I'm going to try to pull it up here on the screen.
Sure.
They were a little surprising. Let me share the screen here quickly. Boom. There it is. So it might be tough to see, but Armand Membu, clearly in number 1. Listen to this. Jalen Walker, number 2.
Okay.
Ashton Genty, number 3. Will Campbell, number 4. Shadur Sanders, number 5. Warren, 6. Tet, 7. I think that's insane.
I do too. So in my opinion, I would still have Membu as the number 1 guy. I would have Tyler Warren close as the number 2. And then I would have, honestly, a pretty big gap from there. Maybe Jalen Walker somewhere between 3 to 5. But I was surprised to see that laid out like this for their odds.
Here's what I'll say about Jalen Walker, Matt. He's a versatile piece. He could do a lot of different things, a couple things. He is not exceptionally great as an off-ball linebacker. He's not exceptionally great coming off the edge. He's kind of like in the sense he's that jack of all trades type guy, but there's nothing that really jumps off the page to me where I'm like, this guy is insane, coming off the edge. He's going to be a sack artist for years to come in the league. He's kind of that guy who just can do everything at an okay rate. He's not insane at something. Kind of a jack of all trades. I don't know what the phrase I'm looking for here, but something in the sense that he is not a master at anything. Like he's overall an okay player at each position. He just doesn't stick out exceptionally. You draft him flat out for versatility. Shadur Sanders, a pick I'll never get. Even if this team needed a quarterback, I would stay away from Shadur Sanders in the first round. Tet, I don't know why Tet's so low, Matt, because there was a point earlier on in this process where it was, if Tet's there at 7, you have to take him. Now Tet is widely regarded as, oh my God, you want to take Tet McMillan? I'm still on the Tet train, Matt. That's something I'd be okay with, especially after the 40 came out at his pro day, and it was solid.
Yeah, I like Tet McMillan, and I personally would be okay with it. I just feel like that's cooled off for the Jets for whatever reason. Like that's just a name that I haven't heard all that much. But if we got to draft night and they did decide to take Tet McMillan, it would be a surprise, but not in a negative. Like I don't mean surprise in a negative way. I would be pleasantly surprised because I think he's honestly what the Jets should be looking for at the wide receiver position.
Tyson comes into my favorite trio would be Warren at 7, Jaden Higgins at 42, Aussie Trapillo at 73. That's like a dream for me, Matt. Like if the Jets could pull that off, tight end 1, your playmaker. Wide receiver 2, playmaker, Jaden Higgins, who could play all 3 wide receiver positions. 6'8" right tackle, Ozzy Trapillo. That's flat out a dream.
Yeah, Ozzy's one of my favorite guys on day 2. When trying to find someone who could again like come in and play for you. And I think that's what the Jets need to do with their first 3 picks. I don't really want to go with the boomer bust guy. I want to go with a guy who I think can play for you on day 1. And Trapillo is that for me in the 3rd round. Now, clearly, as we know, nothing in the draft is guaranteed. And the further you go along, the harder it is to hit on guys who could be immediate impact for you. But I think just what we saw from him at Boston College makes me believe that he should be able to transition to the next level and be a capable starter.
Jimmy says if they take a DL not named Graham, it has to be Mike Green. Matt, you got any thoughts on Mike Green from Marshall?
I do like Mike Green a lot, and I do think you can make a case for edge being a bigger need than we're realizing right now, just because of, Jermaine's coming off an injury, and I don't know what that's going to look like early on in the year. And then they don't really have an edge 3 behind Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson.
Sean Weaver, what are you talking about, Matt? Eric Watts, Braden McGregor. Come on, don't sleep on these guys.
Legends. I shouldn't be sleeping on them. You're totally right. But I like Mike Green. I would see the vision. That would come as a surprise because I think he would probably be like, I don't know, what, the 5th, 6th most likely guy to come off the board to the Jets, but he would be fun. I like him.
For sure. His explosiveness, Matt, not overall as a player, because I think this player was insanely overrated for one season with the Jets, and it was because of the scheme he played in. Bryce Huff. His explosiveness reminds me of Bryce Huff. I mean, this is someone who is stout against the pass, stout stopping the run. The Jets need someone who could be a reliable option. And I know Will McDonald gets looked at like this, superstar after one solid season. This is someone, let's keep in mind, who only played really 3rd down for this team. Someone who's a pure sack artist. Someone who was unable to stop the run. His run stuffing needs immense work this offseason. I don't even know if I just feel comfortable rolling into the season with Will McDonald. He is your number 1 guy. Like, I think he's a solid edge rusher, 1,000%. I just think his 2024 campaign was a little overrated among the fan base. If you can add someone like Mike Green who can come in, provide pass rush value, stop the run, help be a starter for this team. You don't know what Jermaine's going to look like. You mentioned that. I would really like that. Zadarius Smith is another one who I wrote a column about for Jets X Factor. There's no reason the Jets should have not, because he doesn't even count towards the compensatory pick formula, Matt. He was a cap casualty down in Detroit. So you can flat out sign him today. It would not affect your compensatory picks. It wouldn't cancel out with Reddick or anything. A veteran who's familiar with the scheme, solid guy. Every single year he's going to get you double-digit sacks. I'm a huge fan of Zadarius Smith as a potential option in free agency. Couple more here before we wrap. We'll take one more point and then we'll end with a fun one. Caden says, I want Warren 7, Mason Taylor 42, Ozzy 73. Matt, I like Mason Taylor, not in the 2nd round though.
Okay, see, I wouldn't mind taking him, but I wouldn't go tight end with the first 2 picks.
Yeah.
I think they would need to go another direction with one of those 2.
Oh, he said I meant Ted at 7. Sorry, correct.
Oh, okay. Ted at 7. Okay. All right, that's a little bit different then. I take back what I just said. Because obviously taking a wide receiver then tight end's a little bit different. I like Mason Taylor as a day 2 guy. I would say him, Terrence Ferguson, or Gunnar Helm are like some of my guys on day 2 that I like.
I'm not comfortable taking any tight end in the 2nd round unless Colston Loveland has this crazy meteoric fall. Elijah Arroyo, okay, solid. Has dealt with injuries really his entire collegiate career and had put together one solid season. Do I really want to go near that in the 2nd round? 3rd, I'd be okay with. Not so much 2nd. for me. I mean, Gunnar Helm, I really, really like him. Second round, again, I don't know if I want to go after him. My guys come in the third or fourth round. That's Terrence Ferguson from Oregon and Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. I don't care who Harold Fannin Jr. was playing against. I mean, people are gonna slam him because he went to Bowling Green and because of his competition. People forget that he played better than Tyler Warren when Harold Fannin went against Penn State and Tyler Warren went against Bowling Green, coming from a massive collegiate program at Penn State and Happy Valley. So the fact that he was able to hang nearly 140 yards and 2 touchdowns on a Penn State team that went to the college football playoffs is highly impressive. Shattered not only Bowling Green records, but MAC records, was the MAC MVP. I mean, this guy is someone who brings the elusiveness, is able to develop into a blocker. You can line him up anywhere. You can line him up in line. You can line him out wide. He can develop into a blocker for you, as crazy as that sounds. I mean, being 6'3", 230 as a tight end, it's not going to be the easiest thing in the world. However, I mean, he's shown he has solid technique that he could potentially kind of implement here at the NFL level. So Harold Fannin and Terrence Ferguson are my guys. I also like Oronde Gadsden from Syracuse. He's a receiver kind of in one of the later rounds. He'll be your tight end, but he's a receiver. This is someone who committed to Syracuse as a receiver, spent his first college season as a receiver before making the move over to tight end, where he's had a lot of success. Those three are my main guys. Johnny comes in, his thoughts on Johnny Boy potentially being drafted at 7 as wide receiver too. I would take Johnny over Xavier Gibson, Matt.
I think I would as well. And good news, I know our guy Johnny's making the trip up to Long Island this week. So safe travels and enjoy. Hopefully get to see some Johnny Boy this weekend.
For sure. I had no idea Johnny Boy, so I hope you have a great trip visiting Long Island, where Matt and I both grew up and are currently based out of. So, Johnny, appreciate you tuning in. And hey, I'd take you over what Malachi Corley's shown. I'd take you over what Xavier Gibson has shown. And he's probably coming to be the wide receiver too right away. But nevertheless, appreciate you all tuning in. Smash the like. Hit subscribe, Matt. Appreciate you hopping on with me. So, you got any final thoughts here before we wrap things up?
Oh, getting so much closer to the NFL draft. I am ready for the draft. I'm a little mock drafted out. We've done a bunch of them, and I'm ready for this to come.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, less than 3 weeks away, so we're in the home stretch. Let's just get to this draft. I'll say the pre-draft process was not as dreadful this year as it was last year, which is kind of nice. So appreciate that, and hopefully this draft goes well, and we're able to come away with a solid return. So looking forward to that. We never know what this team could do. If they fall in love with Ryan Fitzgerald or Andres Borregales, they might be selected with the number 7 overall pick. You just never know what's going through Woody Johnson's mind, and we don't know what Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn's philosophies are yet. So you never know, but hopefully this draft goes well for this team. And appreciate you sparing some time for us as always, Matt. Appreciate you and everyone. Thank you guys for watching. He's Matt. I'm Connor, and that's all here on NY Flight Jets Talk. JTS Jets.